Subscribe to Storylab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Man Who Built Bridges. Travis Bond learned early that trust was a currency few could afford. At 34, he'd built a modest construction company from nothing, employing 17 men who'd been written off by society. Ex-convicts, recovering addicts, immigrants with questionable papers. His father, Glenn Bond, called it collecting strays. Travis called it giving people the second chance he'd once needed. The Texas sun beat down on the Riverside Community Center project as Travis reviewed blueprints with his foreman, Ernesto Fletcher, a former gang member who'd served 8 years for assault. The old man had earned his redemption through sweat and loyalty. "Boss, we're ahead of schedule," Ernesto reported, wiping his brow. "Foundation's solid. Inspector signed off this morning." Travis nodded, pride warming his chest. This center would serve underprivileged kids. Kids like he'd been before his mother's life insurance policy saved him from the streets after her death. His phone buzzed. His wife's name flashed across the screen. Lana. "Hey, beautiful," he answered. "Travis, I need a favor." Lana's voice carried that familiar edge, the one that meant she was asking, not discussing. "I have to cover a double shift at the hospital. Sarah called in sick again. Can your dad watch Nathan for a few hours?" "Diana can help." Travis hesitated. Glenn Bond was 62, fit for his age, but watching a hyperactive 2-year-old wasn't exactly his forte. Still, Diana was responsible for 10, mature beyond her years. "Sure. I'll drop them off at Dad's place on my way home." "You okay?" "Just exhausted. This merger with County General has everyone working overtime. I'll make it up to you this weekend, promise." After hanging up, Travis couldn't shake a nagging unease. His relationship with Glenn had always been complicated. The old man had raised him alone after Travis's mother died when he was 7, but Glenn's parenting style involved more criticism than affection. "Toughen you up for the real world," he'd say after another harsh punishment for minor infractions. Travis had sworn he'd be different with his kids. Diana and Nathan knew they were loved every single day. At 3 o'clock, Travis picked up Diana from school. She climbed into his truck, backpack covered in band stickers and anime pins. "Hey, Cricket," he said, using his nickname for her since she'd been obsessed with crickets as a toddler. "How was school?" "Boring. Mrs. Hampton gave us another essay on what we did last summer. Like that was 2 months ago. Nobody cares about my camping trip anymore." Travis chuckled. "Your grandpa's going to watch you and Nathan for a few hours while Mom works. Think you can help keep an eye on your brother?" Diana's expression shifted, something flickering across her face that Travis couldn't quite read. "Do we have to go to Grandpa's? Can't we just stay home? I'm old enough to babysit." "Not quite yet, Cricket. Maybe next year. Besides, your grandpa likes seeing you guys." "Does he, though?" Diana muttered, staring out the window. "What was that?" "Nothing. They picked up Nathan from daycare next." The toddler was a hurricane of energy, blonde curls bouncing as he threw himself into Travis's arms, shrieking "Daddy!" with pure joy. This kid was sunshine incarnate. Glenn Bond's house sat on 3 acres outside town, a place that had once been a working ranch, now just a sprawling property with a barn that hadn't housed livestock in decades. Travis pulled into the long driveway, gravel crunching under his tires. Glenn emerged from the house, tall and lean, silver hair, cropped military short. His face carried the weathered look of a man who'd worked outdoors his whole life, deep lines etched around his mouth and eyes. He'd been a contractor, too, before retiring 5 years ago. "Travis," Glenn said by way of greeting. No warmth, just acknowledgement. "Hey, Dad. Thanks for watching them." "Lana's stuck at work." "That woman's always stuck at work," Glenn said, his tone carrying disapproval. He'd never thought Lana was good enough for Travis. Too educated, too ambitious, too something. Those kids need their mother home. Travis bit back a retort. "Not today. I'll be back by 6:30. Diana's in charge of Nathan. He's had his snack, shouldn't need dinner." Glenn's eyes settled on Diana with an intensity that made Travis uncomfortable, though he couldn't articulate why. "Diana's a good girl. We'll be just fine." Diana gripped Travis's hand tighter than necessary. "Dad, I really think. It's just a few hours, Cricket. Be good for Grandpa." Travis kissed the top of her head, then Nathan's. Love you both. As he drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Diana stood in the driveway, watching his truck disappear, her small frame, somehow, looking much older than 10. Chapter 2. The Call That Changed Everything. Travis made it 30 minutes before his phone exploded with Diana's call. He was at Fletcher's Hardware, picking up supplies for tomorrow's job, when his phone rang. Diana's name flashed on the screen with a photo from last Christmas, her gap-toothed grin under a Santa hat. "Hey, Cricket, everything. Dad, come home." Her scream pierced through the phone so loud that Travis jerked it away from his ear. Other customers turned to stare. Grandpa's doing something terrifying with Nathan. "You need to come home right now." Travis's blood turned to ice. "Diana, calm down. What's happening? What's he doing? I can't explain." She was sobbing now, words tumbling out between gasps. "Just come, please. There's something wrong. He told me to go upstairs, but I saw." The line went dead. Travis was running before conscious thought kicked in. He threw cash at the startled cashier, not waiting for change, and sprinted to his truck. His hands shook as he started the engine, nearly dropping his keys. He dialed Diana back. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. He called Glenn, straight to voicemail. Terror unlike anything he'd ever experienced flooded through him. His baby boy, his little girl, whatever was happening. He stomped the accelerator, his truck roaring out of the parking lot. The drive to Glenn's place was 20 minutes normally. Travis made it in 11, blowing through 2 red lights and taking a corner so fast his tires screamed. What could Glenn be doing? His mind raced through horrifying possibilities, each worse than the last. His father had always been strict, sometimes cruel in his discipline, but Travis had never suspected. He couldn't finish the thought. Wouldn't. The ranch house appeared ahead, looking deceptively peaceful in the late afternoon sun. Travis barely put the truck in park before he was out, running toward the front door. It was locked. He pounded on it, shouting, "Diana, Nathan, Glenn." No response. He didn't hesitate. Travis stepped back and kicked the door with everything he had. The frame splintered on the second impact, and the door crashed inward. The house was too quiet. Travis's heart hammered against his ribs as he moved through the living room, calling his children's names. Then he heard it, a whimper from upstairs. "Diana." He took the stairs 3 at a time, nearly falling in his haste. Diana's voice came from Glenn's bedroom, speaking in urgent whispers. Travis burst through the door and froze. Glenn stood over Nathan, who lay on the bed, shirt removed, crying softly. Diana was pressed into the corner, tears streaming down her face, her phone clutched in both hands. Glenn's head snapped toward Travis, and for a moment, something dark flickered across his father's face. Surprise, anger, and something else Travis couldn't identify. "What the hell is going on?" Travis roared, lunging forward to scoop Nathan into his arms. The toddler immediately buried his face in Travis's shoulder, his small body shaking. "Travis, calm down," Glenn started. "Don't tell me to calm down." Travis backed away, positioning himself between his father and his children. Diana ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Diana, call me screaming. You want to explain why my 2-year-old son is half naked on your bed crying?" Glenn's expression shifted to something like frustration. "You're overreacting. I was checking a rash on his stomach. The boy was scratching himself raw, and I was applying cream." Diana apparently decided to be dramatic about it. "Then why didn't you answer your phone? Why didn't Diana feel safe?" "My phone's downstairs, and your daughter has been watching too many true crime shows or something. She's jumpy." Glenn's voice carried an edge now, defensive. "I'm his grandfather, for God's sake. You really think—" "I don't know what to think," Travis interrupted, his voice shaking with adrenaline and rage. "But we're leaving. Now. Diana, get Nathan's things." As Diana scrambled to gather Nathan's backpack and jacket, Glenn stepped forward. "Travis, don't be stupid about this. You're going to ruin everything over nothing." The phrasing was odd. Ruin everything. Not ruin our relationship or make a mistake. Everything. "Stay away from my kids," Travis said quietly, dangerously. Until I figure out what the hell just happened here. You don't see them. Got it? Something cold settled into Glenn's eyes. You're making a big mistake, son. Don't call me that. Travis carried Nathan while Diana clung to his side, and they left the house. He buckled both kids into his truck, his hands still trembling. Nathan had stopped crying, but remained unusually quiet. Diana stared straight ahead, her jaw clenched. As Travis started the engine, he looked back at the house. Glenn stood in the upstairs window, watching them leave, his silhouette dark against the light. And for the first time in his life, Travis Bond realized he might not know his father at all. Chapter 3: Unraveling Threads. Travis drove in silence for 10 minutes before pulling into a gas station parking lot. He needed to think, needed to breathe, needed to understand what he just witnessed. He turned to Diana. "Cricket, I need you to tell me exactly what you saw. Every detail." Diana's hands twisted in her lap. "When we got there, Grandpa was being weird. Really nice, which isn't normal. He gave Nathan cookies and told me to go play in the living room. But then Nathan started crying, and when I went to check, Grandpa was taking him upstairs. He told me to stay downstairs, but something felt wrong, Dad. The way he looked at me." "How did he look at you?" Like he was warning me. Like when you catch someone doing something bad, and they give you that look that says, say nothing." Diana took a shaky breath. "So I waited a few minutes, then I snuck upstairs. The bedroom door was mostly closed, but I could see through the crack. Nathan was on the bed, and Grandpa was standing over him, taking his shirt off. Nathan was crying and saying no, and hurts, and Grandpa was saying something about just staying still, and this is important." Travis's grip on the steering wheel tightened until his knuckles went white. "Did he touch Nathan anywhere besides removing his shirt?" "I don't know. That's when I ran to the bathroom and called you. I was so scared, Dad. I don't know what I thought, but it felt wrong. Really, really wrong." Travis pulled her into a hug, feeling her thin shoulders shake with residual fear. "You did exactly right, Cricket. You protected your brother. I'm so proud of you." He released Diana and checked Nathan, examining his stomach. There was indeed a rash, red and irritated, but it looked like a typical heat rash or allergic reaction. Nothing that required urgent intervention. Nothing that required a child to be half naked on a bed with the door closed. Travis's phone rang. "Lana." "Hey," he answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "How'd drop-off go?" "I'm on my break and thought I'd check in." Travis hesitated. Part of him wanted to unload everything, but Lana was at work in the middle of a stressful shift. This conversation needed time and privacy. "Actually, something came up. I picked the kids up early. Can we talk when you get home? Is everything okay?" Her concern was immediate. "Are the kids hurt?" "They're fine. We need to talk. About my dad." There was a pause. "Travis, what happened?" "Tonight, when you're home. It's complicated." After hanging up, Travis sat for a moment, mind racing. Glenn's words echoed. "You're going to ruin everything over nothing." That phrasing was wrong. The whole situation was wrong. He made a decision. He called Sam Whitaker, a private investigator he'd worked with during a contractor dispute 2 years ago. Sam had helped prove that a competing company was sabotaging Travis's job sites, leading to their prosecution. If anyone could dig into Glenn's life discreetly, it was Sam. "Travis Bond," Sam's gravelly voice answered. "Long time. What trouble are you in now? The kind I hope I'm wrong about. I need you to look into someone." "Name?" Travis closed his eyes. "Glenn Bond. My father." Sam was silent for a moment. "This sounds serious. What am I looking for?" "I don't know. That's the problem. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Can you do it quietly? Give me 3 days. I'll call when I have something." After ending the call, Travis drove home. Their house was a modest 3-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but warm and filled with love. He carried Nathan inside, while Diana followed, still subdued. He settled both kids on the couch with a movie, then texted Ernesto, "Need you to run the site tomorrow morning." Something came up. Ernesto's reply was immediate. "You got it, boss. Everything okay?" "Will be. Thanks." Travis made dinner. Mac and cheese, Nathan's favorite, and tried to act normal. But Diana kept watching him with those 2 old eyes, and Nathan was clingy, refusing to leave Travis's lap. When Lana finally came home at 9, exhausted in her scrubs, Travis waited until both kids were in bed before joining her in the kitchen. She took one look at his face and sank into a chair. "Tell me." Travis recounted the afternoon, Diana's terrified call, the scene he'd found, Glenn's explanation, the wrongness of it all. Lana listened, her expression shifting from concern to horror to fury. He had Nathan half-naked on a bed with the door closed. Her voice was dangerously quiet. "And Diana was so scared she called you screaming?" "Lana, I don't know if there was anything." Travis struggled with the words, the implications too terrible to voice fully. "But you suspect something." "I don't know what I suspect. That's why I called Sam. If there's something in Dad's past, some pattern, Sam will find it." Lana stood abruptly, pacing. "Travis, I never like how your father treated you. The criticism, the coldness. But this? If there's even a chance. He's not seeing the kids until I know the truth. I already told him that." "Good." Lana's nurse training kicked in. "We should take Nathan to the pediatrician tomorrow. Have him checked over, document everything. And Diana might benefit from talking to someone, a counselor. This has traumatized her." Travis nodded, feeling the weight of failure settling on his shoulders. He'd left his children with someone who'd scared them, hurt them, maybe worse. What kind of father did that make him? Lana seemed to read his thoughts. She crossed to him, cupping his face in her hands. "This is not your fault. You couldn't have known. But now we protect them. Whatever it takes." That night, Travis lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, Diana had crawled into Nathan's bed, unwilling to leave her little brother alone. The house was too quiet, too heavy with unspoken fears. His phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A text from an unknown number. "You should have listened to me." Now, things get complicated. Gee. Travis's blood ran cold. He screenshot the message, forwarded it to Sam, then blocked the number. Sleep didn't come again that night. Chapter 4. The investigation begins. Sam Whitaker showed up at Travis's house 3 days later with a manila folder and a grim expression. Travis had sent Lana and the kids to her mother's place for the weekend, both for their safety and so this conversation could happen without little ears listening. "You're not going to like this," Sam said without preamble, dropping the folder on Travis's kitchen table. "In fact, you're going to wish you'd never asked me to dig." Travis's stomach nodded. "Show me." Sam opened the folder, spreading out documents and photographs. Glenn Bond, age 62, retired contractor, clean criminal record, not even a speeding ticket in 40 years. On the surface, model citizen. On the surface, Travis repeated. What's beneath? That's where it gets interesting. Your father's financials don't make sense. He sold his contracting business for $300,000 5 years ago when he retired. Decent nest egg. But his bank accounts show deposits totaling over $2.3 million in the past 4 years. Cash deposits, always under $10,000 to avoid federal reporting requirements. Travis leaned forward. Where's it coming from? That took some creative investigating. Your father's involved with an organization called Second Futures Foundation. It's registered as a nonprofit that helps troubled youth find employment and housing. Very charitable. Except when you dig deeper, Sam pulled out another document. The foundation has some interesting board members. He slid over a photograph. It showed Glenn at a gala fundraiser, standing beside 2 men Travis didn't recognize. Sam tapped one. That's Clifton Jenkins, former juvenile court judge. Retired mysteriously 3 years ago after accusations of impropriety that never went anywhere. And that's James Cunningham, owned a group home for foster kids until it was shut down for health violations. Both men are connected to multiple foundations and nonprofits that have been investigated but never charged with anything. Investigated for what? Sam's jaw tightened. Let me tell you about the pattern. Over the past decade, there have been 19 children, kids from broken homes, foster care, juvenile detention, who've gone missing after being placed with organizations connected to these men. 19 kids who the system barely looked for because they were troubled or runaways. 3 of them were eventually found, but they wouldn't talk about what happened. The others? Never seen again. The room seemed to tilt. You're saying my father is involved in? I don't know exactly what, But there's something very wrong happening under the cover of these charitable organizations. And your father's right in the middle of it. Travis felt sick. Nathan and Diana are safe because they're not the demographic these men typically target. This operation, whatever it is, focuses on kids no one's looking for. Kids the system has failed. But Diana witnessed something she wasn't supposed to see, and now she's a liability. Travis's phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. Your daughter's quite perceptive. It would be unfortunate if something happened to such a smart girl. He showed it to Sam, whose expression darkened. That's a direct threat. We need to involve the police. With what evidence? Financial irregularities and a hunch? They'll question Dad. He'll lawyer up, and then these people will scatter like roaches. Meanwhile, my kids are in danger. Travis paced the kitchen, mind racing. We need more. Something concrete that ties them to these missing children. Sam nodded slowly. I was hoping you'd say that, because I found something else. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, Glenn purchased a property, 40 acres in rural Texas, about 2 hours from here. It's registered under an LLC, buried under 3 layers of shell companies, but I traced it back to him. The property has an old ranch house and several outbuildings. Why buy more property when he's already got 3 acres? That's what I wondered. So I took a drive out there yesterday. Stayed on public roads, used a telephoto lens. Sam produced several photographs. They showed Glenn's property from a distance, fenced with security cameras visible. That's a lot of security for abandoned ranch land. And look at this. He pointed to one photo showing tire tracks leading to one of the outbuildings. Fresh. Someone's been there recently. And see those power lines? That building's got electricity, which means it's being used for something. Travis studied the photos, a plan forming in his mind. We need to get inside that building. See what they're hiding. Travis, that's breaking and entering. If we're caught, we're no worse off than we are now, except my kids get to live. But if we find evidence of criminal activity, we can go to the police with something real. Travis met Sam's eyes. I need to know what my father's involved in. I need to know if my son was going to be. He couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Sam sighed. Tomorrow night. New moon. Good cloud cover. We go in quiet, document everything, get out. But Travis, if we find what I think we're going to find, you need to be prepared. This could get very dark, very fast. I'm already in the dark. I just need to see the monsters hiding there. Chapter 5. The Truth Laid Bare. The next night, Travis and Sam drove 2 hours into rural Texas in Sam's nondescript sedan. Travis had told Lana he was meeting with a supplier overnight. She'd seen through the lie immediately, but didn't push, just made him promise to be careful and come home to her. They parked a mile from Glenn's property and hiked in through woods, both dressed in dark clothing, Sam carrying a professional camera and lock-picking tools. The property appeared deserted at midnight, the main ranch house dark. Security cameras, Sam whispered, pointing, but they're focused on the main approach. We're coming from the back, should avoid detection. They crept toward the largest outbuilding, an old barn that had been reinforced with new materials, steel doors, modern locks, powered ventilation system humming quietly. Someone had converted this into something else entirely. Sam made quick work of the lock. The door opened with barely a whisper. Inside, Travis used a penlight to navigate the darkness. The barn had been divided into rooms. The first appeared to be an office, desk, filing cabinets, computer. Sam immediately started photographing everything while Travis opened the filing cabinets. His hand shook as he pulled out folders. Each one had a name, a photograph, and detailed notes. Children's faces stared back at him. Teenagers mostly, some younger. The notes detailed their backgrounds: foster care, juvenile detention, runaways. Beside each photo were notations that made Travis's blood run cold. Secured June 12, 24. Transport arranged to Dallas location. Subject proved problematic. Terminated and disposed August 3rd, 24. Sam, Travis's voice cracked. We need to photograph all of this. This is evidence of, he couldn't say it. Couldn't make it real with words. Sam was already working, his camera clicking rapidly. There's a locked room in the back. Can you hear that? Travis listened. A faint humming, rhythmic like machinery. They moved deeper into the barn, finding a steel door with an electronic keypad. Sam studied it, then pulled out a small device from his pack. Keypad cracker. Give me 2 minutes. It took 3, but the door clicked open. The smell hit them first. Chemical, medicinal, wrong? Inside was a laboratory of sorts. Examination tables, medical equipment, restraints built into the walls. Cabinets filled with drugs Travis didn't recognize. And in the back, a cold storage unit. Don't open it, Sam said quietly. If there are bodies, we need to preserve the crime scene. We call the police now. Let them handle this. But Travis was staring at something else, a whiteboard on the wall, covered in notes and photographs. His heart stopped. Diana's picture was there, pinned to the corner. Beside it, someone had written, "Witness. Priority containment required." They're planning to take Diana, Travis whispered. Rage unlike anything he'd ever felt surged through him. My daughter is on their target list. Sam grabbed his shoulder. Which is why we need to call the police right now. This is beyond us, Travis. This is organized crime, possibly trafficking, murder. We need federal investigators, protection for your family. The lights blazed on. Both men spun toward the door. Glenn Bond stood there, flanked by Clifton Jenkins and James Cunningham. Glenn held a pistol, aimed directly at Travis. I told you that you were making a mistake, Glenn said, his voice carrying disappointment rather than anger. All you had to do was leave it alone, Travis. Keep your nose out of business that doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me? Travis's voice was deadly quiet. You have my daughter's picture on a target board. You were planning to what? Kidnap her? Kill her? What were you going to do to Nathan that day? Glenn's expression didn't change. Nathan was going to be a test subject. The foundation pays very well for young donors, organs primarily. The clients are wealthy, desperate, willing to pay millions for a healthy match. Nathan was a universal blood type, excellent candidate. But you had to come rushing in like some kind of hero. The words didn't seem real. Couldn't be real. This was his father, the man who'd raised him. Travis felt reality fracturing. You were going to kill your own grandson for money? Don't be dramatic. He wouldn't have suffered. We're professionals, and the amount of good that could come from a perfect organ match. You're insane, Travis said flatly. All of you. How many children have you murdered? Murdered is such an ugly word. James Cunningham interjected, stepping forward. He was a portly man with thinning hair and cold eyes. We provide a service. These children were going nowhere. Broken system, broken families, no future. We gave their deaths meaning. Sam's hand slowly moved toward the weapon Travis knew he carried. But Clifton Jenkins noticed, pulling his own gun. Don't even think about it, Mr. Whitaker. We know who you are. Former cop turned PI. You've been making inquiries, taking photographs. Very sloppy. Jenkins was tall and distinguished, looking every bit the retired judge. The question is, what do we do with you both now? You can't kill us and make it disappear, Travis said, his mind racing, calculating odds. He was unarmed. Sam had a weapon, but was outgunned 3-1. People know we're here. If we disappear, your wife thinks you're meeting a supplier, Glenn interrupted. Sam told his assistant he was working a routine surveillance case. No one knows you're here. And this property? It's completely isolated. Even if someone heard gunshots, by the time anyone investigated, we'd be gone and you'd be fertilizer in the back 40. Travis looked at his father, really looked at him, and saw no trace of the man who'd raised him. Just a monster wearing a familiar face. Why? Travis asked. Why would you do this? Money. Money's part of it, Glenn admitted. But mostly, because I can. Because this world is full of sheep, Travis, and I got tired of pretending to be one of them. I raised you to be strong, to be a predator. But you disappointed me. Building that little construction company, hiring losers, playing hero. He shook his head. You could have been part of something great. But instead, you married that uppity nurse and had kids and became exactly what I try to prevent, weak. I'm not weak, Travis said quietly. I'm just not a monster. Glenn raised the pistol. Unfortunately, that distinction isn't going to matter much longer. What happened next occurred in seconds, but felt like hours. Sam lunged left, his hand going for his weapon. Clifton Jenkins fired, the gunshot deafening in the enclosed space. Sam went down, clutching his shoulder. Travis didn't think. He acted on instinct, the same instincts that had kept him alive on construction sites, the same split-second decision-making that prevented accidents. He grabbed the nearest object, a medical tray, and hurled it at Glenn. It struck his father's gun hand, and the pistol discharged wildly, the bullet embedding in the wall. Travis charged forward, closing the distance before Glenn could aim again. They collided hard, both men crashing into the examination table. Glenn was strong for his age, but Travis was younger, fueled by rage and desperate fear for his family. He grabbed his father's wrist, slamming it against the table edge until the gun clattered away. Behind them, James Cunningham moved towards Sam's prone form. But Sam wasn't as injured as he'd appeared. He rolled, his weapon coming up, and fired twice. Cunningham went down, screaming, clutching his leg. Clifton Jenkins spun towards Sam, and Travis made another split-second decision. He released Glenn, diving for the fallen pistol. His fingers closed around it just as Jenkins's gun swung toward him. Travis fired first. The bullet caught Jenkins in the chest, and the former judge stumbled backward, surprise on his face before collapsing. Glenn scrambled up, running for the door. Travis pursued, but his father had a head start. By the time Travis reached the barn entrance, Glenn had made it to a truck and was peeling out, gravel spraying. Travis raised the pistol, but couldn't take the shot. Despite everything, some part of him couldn't pull the trigger on his own father. He ran back inside. Sam was on his phone, calling 911, while keeping his weapon trained on the whimpering Cunningham. Blood pooled on the floor from multiple sources. "Police and ambulance are coming," Sam said through gritted teeth, his shoulder bleeding, but the wound not life-threatening. "Travis, you need to secure that evidence before your father comes back with reinforcements." Travis nodded, his hands shaking from adrenaline. He grabbed Sam's camera, photographing everything. The files, the equipment, Diana's photo on the board, the cold storage unit. Every piece of evidence that would ensure these monsters never hurt another child. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Chapter 6. Pieces on the board. The next 72 hours were a blur of police interviews, federal agents, and media chaos. Sam's shoulder required surgery, but he'd survive. Clifton Jenkins died from his wound before the ambulance arrived. James Cunningham sang, like a canary the moment he realized he was facing murder charges, providing names, locations, details of the entire operation. The FBI found 6 bodies in the cold storage unit, children who'd been harvested for organs and disposed of. Another 13 children were recovered alive from locations across 3 states, held in preparation for the same fate. The Second Futures Foundation and 3 other nonprofit fronts were raided simultaneously. 17 people were arrested. But Glenn Bond had vanished. Travis sat in a federal agent's office, his lawyer beside him. Agent Morgan Farrell was a stern woman with sharp eyes and no patience for deception. "Your father's disappeared," she said flatly. "He's liquidated his bank accounts, abandoned his properties, gone underground. He has resources and connections. People like this don't stop just because we've disrupted their operation. They regroup. Are my children safe?" That was all Travis cared about. "We've placed your family in protective custody temporarily. But Mr. Bond, I need to ask, are you willing to testify against your father when we catch him?" "If," Travis corrected. "You mean if you catch him?" "When," Agent Farrell insisted. "We always catch them eventually." Travis thought about Diana's terrified voice on the phone, about Nathan's small body on that bed, about all those children whose lives have been stolen for profit. "I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes to put him away forever." But privately, Travis knew the truth. The federal system was slow, complicated. His father was smart, connected, and ruthless. Even if they caught Glenn, trials took years. Appeals took longer. And the whole time, Travis's family would be looking over their shoulders, waiting for revenge. No, this couldn't end with Travis sitting back and hoping the system worked. That night, back home under police protection, Travis sat with Lana in their kitchen while the kids slept upstairs. "What are you thinking?" Lana asked quietly. She knew that look on his face. "I'm thinking the police can't protect us forever. I'm thinking my father's out there planning his next move. I'm thinking about all those families whose children never came home. Travis met her eyes. I'm thinking the system failed those kids, and it's going to fail us too if I don't do something about it. Travis, you can't. I'm not going to kill him, if that's what you're worried about. But I'm going to make sure he can never hurt anyone again. Ever. Lana studied him for a long moment. What do you need from me? Trust. And maybe forgiveness if this goes sideways. She reached across the table, taking his hand. Then you better make sure it doesn't go sideways. Because those kids upstairs need their father. Travis spent the next week planning. He used his construction contacts, his knowledge of how to build and destroy, his understanding of how criminals thought. He reached out to Ernesto Fletcher. Boss, you know I'd follow you into hell, Ernesto said when Travis laid out part of his plan. But you're talking about some heavy stuff here. You sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. Ernesto nodded slowly. Then I'm in. What do you need? Travis also contacted other members of his crew, men who owed him second chances, men who understood that sometimes the system needed help to achieve justice. By the end of the week, he had a team of 7 loyal men, each with specific skills that would be needed. Sam Whitaker, released from the hospital with his arm in a sling, met Travis at a diner on the edge of town. I know that look, Sam said. You're not waiting for the FBI to find Glenn. He's my father. I know how he thinks, where he'd go, what he'd do. The FBI's looking for a criminal. I'm looking for the man who raised me. Travis pushed a folder across the table. I need your help. One last investigation. Sam opened the folder, scanning the contents. You want me to track Glenn's old contacts, his safe houses, his escape routes. I want you to find him before the FBI does. And then I want you to tell me where he is and forget you ever did this investigation. Travis, if you're planning what I think you're planning, I'm planning to protect my family. How that looks is up to Glenn. Sam closed the folder. I'm already an accessory to breaking and entering, and I shot a man, even if it was self-defense. Might as well go all in. He extended his hand. But Travis, don't become the monster you're hunting. Travis shook his hand. I don't plan to. I plan to be the exterminator. Chapter 7. The Hunt. Sam found Glenn in 11 days. The old man had holed up in a safe house in New Mexico, a desert compound perfect for spotting anyone approaching from miles away. He wasn't alone. 3 other men from the organization had joined him, all armed, all dangerous. This is the location, Sam said, spreading aerial photos across Travis's truck hood. They'd met in a remote parking area, well away from Travis's home and any FBI surveillance. Guard rotation every 4 hours. They've got weapons, supplies for a long siege. Your father's not planning to surrender quietly. Good, Travis said. Neither am I. Travis had spent those 11 days preparing. His construction company had a legitimate reason to acquire explosives for demolition work. He'd stockpiled more than necessary. He'd also acquired thermal imaging equipment, long-range communication devices, and other tools that could be explained away as work-related if anyone asked. Ernesto and 5 others from Travis's crew made the drive to New Mexico in 3 vehicles, arriving separately to avoid attention. They met at an abandoned ranch 20 miles from Glenn's compound. Okay, boss, Ernesto said. We're here. What's the play? Travis had spent years in construction, understanding structural weaknesses, load-bearing walls, how buildings collapsed. He'd also spent his childhood watching his father, learning how the man thought and planned. He combined both knowledge sets into a plan that was elegant in its brutality. Glenn thinks he's smart, holding up in a fortified position. But he forgot something. I learned everything from him, including his playbook. Travis pointed to the compound schematics Sam had provided. That building has one water supply line from an underground well. We contaminate it with a mild sedative, nothing lethal, just enough to make them drowsy, slow their reaction time. In construction, we use similar compounds for night shifts, keep guys alert. The reverse formula induces fatigue. And then, asked Wes Bowman, an ex-Marine Travis had hired after Wes had been dishonorably discharged for fighting back against an abusive superior officer. Then we cut their power, eliminate their communications, and give them a choice, surrender to us, or we bring the building down on their heads. You'd kill your own father? Sam asked quietly. If he makes me. But I'm betting he won't. Glenn's a survivor. When cornered, he'll deal. And I got something he wants. What's that? Me. Or, specifically, my silence. The FBI's case is built largely on my testimony. If I refuse to testify, claim I was mistaken about what I saw, their case weakens significantly. Glenn will bet he can manipulate me, convince me to protect him. That's his weakness. He still thinks he can control me. Travis's crew spent 2 days in surveillance, learning the compound's routines. Glenn and his associates were disciplined but predictable, military precision born from arrogance. They believed they were untouchable in their fortress. On the 3rd night, Travis executed his plan. At midnight, Wes, who'd been trained in covert operations, approached the well access point and introduced a carefully measured dose of sedative into the water supply. It would take effect slowly, over several hours, subtle enough that the targets wouldn't immediately realize something was wrong. At 3 a.m., Ernesto and another man cut the power lines. Simultaneously, a carefully placed signal jammer killed their cell reception and satellite communications. At 4 a.m., exhausted and confused men inside the compound tried to figure out what was happening. Their backup generator should have kicked on, but didn't. Travis had sabotaged it 2 days earlier. At 5 a.m., as dawn approached, Travis used a megaphone from a safe distance. Glenn Bond, this is Travis. We need to talk. There was movement inside the compound. Then Glenn's voice, amplified by a bullhorn. Travis? What the hell are you doing? Giving you a choice. Come out unarmed, all of you, and we can settle this like men. Or I bring that building down and we settle it like animals. You've got 10 minutes to decide. You're bluffing. The FBI would never sanction this. Who said anything about the FBI? This is between you and me, Dad. 10 minutes. Travis knew his father would stall, try to devise a counter-strategy. But the sedative was working, and Glenn's men were armed but groggy. More importantly, Glenn's arrogance would work against him. He'd taught Travis never to make threats you couldn't back up, and now Travis would demonstrate that lesson. At the 9-minute mark, Travis nodded to Ernesto, who triggered the first charge. A carefully placed explosion destroyed the building's front entrance. Not enough to collapse anything, but enough to demonstrate Travis meant business. Next one's bigger. Travis shouted, and I've got all day. The compound door opened. Glenn emerged first, hands raised, followed by 3 groggy men who could barely stand straight. They were armed, but barely functional. Smart choice, Travis said, approaching with his own crew covering him, weapons drawn. Now here's what happens next. Your friends are going to call the FBI and turn themselves in. They'll testify against the organization, cooperate fully. In exchange, I'll make sure they get protective custody and reduced sentences. They get to live. And me? Glenn asked, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Even disarmed and defeated, he carried himself with confidence. You and I are going to take a drive. Just the 2 of us. We need to have a conversation about the future. Chapter 8, The Last Lesson. Travis drove his father into the desert as the sun rose, painting the landscape in shades of gold and red. They traveled in silence for 30 minutes, deep into Bureau of Land Management territory where no one would disturb them. Finally, Travis stopped the truck in a canyon surrounded by rock formations. He turned off the engine. I'm not going to kill you, Travis said, though you deserve it. I'm not going to turn you over to the FBI, though they put you away forever. Glenn studied his son. Then what's this about? I'm giving you what you taught me to give enemies. A choice between 2 horrible options. Travis pulled out a folder. Option 1. You disappear. Permanently. I've created a new identity for you. Complete documentation, clean background, enough money to live modestly if you're smart. You go to a country without extradition, you never contact me or my family again, and you live out your remaining years in exile. And option 2, I give you to the FBI. You spend the rest of your life in federal prison, where I'm sure the other inmates will be very interested to learn what you did to children. Pedophiles and child killers don't have long lifespans in prison, Dad. You know that. Glenn laughed, a bitter sound. Some choice. Exile or death. More mercy than you showed those kids. More than you would have shown Nathan. Travis's voice hardened. Here's the additional terms. If you choose option 1, and I ever hear that you've hurt another child, if you surface anywhere near my family, if you try to contact us for any reason, I will personally hunt you down and kill you. Not arrest you. Not turn you in. Kill you. And I'll make it hurt. Big words from my boy who couldn't even shoot me when he had a chance. That was before I knew what you really are. Now, you're just a problem to solve. And I've gotten very good at solving problems. Travis met his father's eyes. I learned from the best, remember? Glenn was silent for a long moment, calculating odds. Finally, he nodded. Option 1. The exile. Smart. Travis pulled out a phone. Burner. Untraceable. You've got 12 hours to get across the border. After that, the FBI gets an anonymous tip about your location, and you're on your own. The documentation in that folder includes contacts in Mexico who can help you get further south. But Glenn, they're expecting you, and they know that if you cause problems, I'll handle it personally. You've thought of everything. I learned from my father. Isn't that what you wanted? For me to be strong, to be a predator? Travis's voice dripped with contempt. Congratulations. You created exactly what you wanted. Just pointed in the wrong direction. Glenn took the folder, studying the documents. You know the FBI will still have questions. They'll wonder why you're not testifying with the same enthusiasm. I'll tell them the trauma was too much, that I can't reliably testify about what I saw. Sam's testimony and the physical evidence will be enough to convict Cunningham and the others. They'll suspect I'm lying, but they can't prove it. And meanwhile, you're gone, no longer a threat. You think this ends it? Glenn asked. You think exiling me solves everything? No, but it's the only solution I can live with that protects my family and gives those other families closure. You die in prison or you disappear forever. Either way, you're gone. This way, I don't become a murderer, and you get a few more years of existence. Call it a gift from a son to his father. Glenn stood, folder tucked under his arm. Travis, despite everything, I want you to know I'm proud of you. You really did learn everything I taught you. Maybe better than I intended. Save it. You're a monster. The only thing I learned from you is what not to become. Travis started the truck. Get out. Your 12 hours start now. Glenn climbed out of the truck, standing in the desert dawn. Travis drove away without looking back, watching his father shrink in the rearview mirror until he was just another speck in a vast landscape. Back at the compound, the FBI had arrived. Sam had made an anonymous call once Glenn's associates were in custody, reporting the location. Travis met with Agent Farrell. Your father wasn't here, she said, suspicion in her voice. He was gone when I arrived. Must have run when he heard the explosions. Travis's voice was flat, exhausted. The others will testify. That'll have to be enough. Mr. Bond, if you're protecting him, I'm protecting my family. If that means Glenn Bond stays in the wind forever, never hurting another person because he's too busy hiding, then that's good enough for me. You got 3 confessions and enough evidence to dismantle the entire operation. Take the win, Agent Farrell. She didn't look happy, but she also couldn't prove Travis had done anything illegal. If he surfaces, you'll be the first to know. Chapter 9. Building Something Better. 3 months later, Travis stood before a crowd of families. Parents whose children had been recovered alive from the organization's various facilities. The FBI had asked him to speak at a closure event, helping these families understand what had happened and begin healing. Travis had agreed, though every word felt like swallowing glass. I'm Travis Bond, he began, his voice echoing through the community center, the same one his company had been building when this all started. My father was Glenn Bond, one of the men who hurt your children. I can't give you back the time they lost. I can't undo the trauma. But I can tell you that I'm sorry and that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right. Afterward, several parents approached him. Some angry, some seeking closure, all hurting. Travis listened to each one, absorbing their pain, their rage, their desperate need for answers. One woman, Roberta Dillon, grabbed his hand. My son was gone for 8 months. They found him in a facility in Arizona, waiting to be harvested. Because of what you did, because you investigated your own father, my boy came home. Thank you. Travis nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. At home, Diana and Nathan were healing slowly. Diana had started seeing a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma. Nathan, thankfully, was young enough that the memories would likely fade. Diana would carry scars, but she was strong, like her father, Lana said. Travis's construction company had grown. The publicity around the case, specifically Travis's role in exposing the organization, had brought in new contracts. But more importantly, Travis had refocused the business toward a new mission, employing people who'd been victimized by the system. Former foster kids, survivors of abuse, people who needed a second chance. The company now had 32 employees, each one carrying their own story of survival. Ernesto had been promoted to partner. Boss, sorry, Travis, we got another applicant. Kid named Felix Sharp, 19, aged out of foster care. His file says he was almost placed with the Second Futures Foundation, but the placement fell through. He's got skills in electrical work. Hire him, Travis said immediately, and make sure he knows this is a safe place, that we protect our people. Always do, boss. Always do. Sam Whitaker stopped by the construction site one afternoon. His shoulder had healed well, though he still moved it gingerly. Got news, he said, pulling Travis aside. FBI closed a Glenn Bond case. Listed him as a fugitive, presumed to have fled the country. No active manhunt, just alerts at borders and airports. Effectively, they moved on to other priorities. Travis nodded. Good. Is it though? Sam studied him. You gave him exile instead of justice. I gave him a life sentence in his own personal prison. No friends, no family, no legacy. He's alive but dead to everyone who knew him. That's its own kind of justice. You've heard from him? No, and I never will. Travis said it with certainty. Glenn understood the terms. He might be a monster, but he was a smart monster. What about you? How are you doing? Therapy helps. Though I'll admit, there are nights I wake up back in that barn, smelling that smell, seeing those files. Sam shuddered. But we got 13 kids out alive. 3 of them have already reunited with family members who thought they were dead. That helps me sleep more than therapy ever could. Lana approached, carrying Nathan on her hip. Diana walked beside her, holding her mother's hand. Hey, you two. We're heading to dinner. Travis, you coming? Yeah. Travis smiled at his family, his real family, built on love rather than blood. Let me just wrap up here. That night, after dinner, after the kids were asleep, Travis sat on his back porch with Lana. The Texas sky spread above them, vast and star-filled. Do you think about him? Lana asked quietly. Your father? Sometimes. I wonder if he made it to wherever he ran. If he's actually staying away, or if someday I'll get a call that he's been found doing the same thing somewhere else. Travis took her hand. But mostly I think about the kids we saved. The families that got closure. The ones we're still helping through the business. You're a good man, Travis Bond. Better than you give yourself credit for. I'm the man you and the kids made me. Everything else is just construction. Building something good on top of a broken foundation. Lana leaned against his shoulder. Speaking of building, I have news. Might want to start planning an extension on the house. Travis turned to her, seeing the small smile playing at her lips. You're pregnant. 3 months. I wanted to be sure before telling you. After everything we've been through. Joy, pure and uncomplicated, flooded through Travis. Another child. Another chance to do right. To break the cycle. To prove that monsters could raise heroes if those heroes refused to become monsters themselves. He struggled for words. That's the best news I've had in forever. They sat together in comfortable silence, planning their future. Inside, Diana dreamed of safer things than the nightmares that had plagued her for months. Nathan slept with his favorite stuffed animal, secure in the knowledge that his father would protect him. And somewhere far away, an old man lived in exile, his legacy reduced to ashes, his name erased from the lives he'd tried to destroy. Travis Bond had learned his last lesson from his father. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful in place of the broken pieces that the destroyer's work is completely erased. And that's exactly what Travis intended to spend the rest of his life doing. Epilogue. 5 years later, Diana Bond stood at a podium in the same community center where her father had once apologized to families. She was 15 now, confident and strong, preparing to speak at the annual Second Chances Gala, a fundraiser for her father's expanded foundation that helped abuse survivors. "My name is Diana Bond," she began, her voice clear. "When I was 10 years old, I witnessed something that changed my life. I saw evil wearing a familiar face, but I also saw my father choose to be a hero when he could have been a victim. This foundation exists because one man decided that breaking cycles mattered more than continuing them, that building something good was stronger than destroying something bad." In the audience, Travis sat with Lana, Nathan, now 7, and their daughter Emma, 4. His crew surrounded him: Ernesto, Wes, Felix, and 24 others whose lives have been rebuilt under Travis's guidance. Sam Whitaker sat in the back, still keeping watch, still protecting the family that had become his purpose. And somewhere, in a country far from Texas, an old man read about the gala in an online news article, seeing his son's success, his granddaughter's strength, the legacy of goodness built on the ruins of his evil. Glenn Bond closed the laptop and poured another drink in his small apartment, alone with his choices, living the exile he'd earned. Justice isn't always delivered by courts and prisons. Sometimes it's delivered by children who grow up better than their parents, by communities rebuilt, by second chances that become first priorities. Travis Bond had learned that the hardest way possible, and he'd spent every day since teaching others the same lesson: that you aren't defined by the monsters who raised you, but by the heroes you choose to become.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.